Start webinar. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our, let me just get this up and running here. Perfect. Welcome, Dr. Mark here, and welcome to webinar number 4 of our Inspiring Life 2021 Reset series. Today, we're looking to pull together ideas from the previous webinars and move towards implementation, or more or less taking action. More specifically, taking action that will become consistent and get the results that you're looking for. So as shown on the screen here, hopefully you can see it. There's a Q&A section too. I've got open. I will pay somewhat attention to it. If you have any comments or if you're having challenges, certainly let me know along the way. We seem to be working through the tech stuff fairly well up to date, so hopefully I keep that consistent going forward. So as shown on the screen, quoting Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, it is a habit. And this is a theme of today's talk. To become the best version of you, we must create great habits for success. Now, in my previous webinar, I shared my passion for the sport of triathlon, a lifestyle-based activity that I've integrated through a number of years. And in my quest to get the best out of myself for improvement in my training and my racing, I look to hear what the best athletes do themselves. And with consistency, the answer always is it's not about a specific workout, piece of equipment, secret to nutrition. It's simply, as I just said, being consistent. Consistent dedication to training leading to successful outcomes. And so with that said, again, the theme of today is developing those habits, those routines that we can carry forward with consistency. Now, our Inspiring Life Reset webinars have focused on what we term the essentials of health: mindset, meals, and movement. In the first webinar on maximizing your mindset, we covered the process of identifying the best version of you, or your actualized potential, where, if you remember, according to Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, what one can be, one must be. Then moving into webinars 2 and 3, Dr. Berry covered meals and movement. During these webinars, you may have gained many great ideas of what you can do to improve your level of health. Dr. Berry covered some highly effective rules of nutrition. He also discussed the importance of posture, spinal hygiene, and functional exercises for improved health. You may have created a list of action items, and perhaps right now you have this initial excitement. Perhaps you're also getting started or have gotten started with some ideas. However, over time, human nature often has us revert back to our old ways, lifestyle habits that potentially don't have the health outcomes that we're looking for, or poor health outcomes. My intention for you today is to be able to effectively implement the ideas so that at the end of 2021, you don't look back and wish that you would have done better. Now, as a side note, if you haven't watched the previous webinars and would like to have access to the recordings, we've recorded them. Simply respond to any of the emails that you've received. You will likely receive another email in a day or two with today's recording, but we can certainly send you the links of previous recordings to view back on, and certainly share with friends, family that you feel will benefit as well. So as a quick review of our mindset webinar, I challenge you to work on your vision. What's your ideal self or your actualized potential? What is it? And in doing this, you would clarify your values. And your values essentially act as the guardrails that keep you on the right path moving forward toward your vision. From here, you would set out some goals. They might be daily goals, weekly, monthly, yearly. We even talked about your BHAG or your big, hairy, audacious goal. Your goals become your stepping stones that move you toward your vision. We also made a point to recognize that your vision should expand or grow with you. As you become capable of more, you expand your vision to strive for more. So let's say you've started walking around the block at night. Fast forward a number of weeks or a few months, you may actually sign up for a 5K walk or run race and be successful at that, and then move forward from there. Finally, we discussed the importance of having a strong why. Your why or your purpose is what propels you forward and gets you through the challenging times, which will happen. Now, moving forward from here, today's big ideas in building habits for success. Here's a quick overview of the big ideas for today. Idea number 1, keystone habit. Your keystone habit is a habit that locks in the structural arch. I'll show you an illustration here in a moment that will give you more of a visual. It's important to recognize that your keystone habit, it's really the most impactful habit that you want to identify. It's the one habit that will make a big difference in your life. Big idea number 2, daily. Do it daily. Pick a habit you will do with consistency. I'm not going to ask you to do it 2 or 3 times a week, but I'm going to say do it daily. We'll discuss why you don't want to miss a day. Big idea number 3, kryptonite. It's been said before that before you plant the seeds, you need to pull out the weeds. If you have stuff going on in your life that is pulling you down, you need to remove it. Big idea number 4, make it easy. In doing something daily, you want to make it easy, creating momentum with what I'd call mini habits. Big idea number 5, triggers. You want to have triggers that essentially cue you to take on certain actions, developing those habits. And our final idea for the day is embrace the process. So it's taking you years to create your current habits that you routinely do. So recognize it will take time to install the new habits to create that best version of you. Let's get into our ideas for creating habits for success. Again, if you participated in the previous webinars on mindset, meals, and movement, you may have this list of ideas that you want to implement. History often shows that attempts to change too much at one time results in frustration and eventual failure. What I'm suggesting here is that we consider a keystone habit. Keystone habit, it's something, again, that will have a really positive benefit in your life. And like the keystone shown in the figure on the slide, it locks in the arch and it creates that strength and integrity. Our keystone habit similarly keeps us super strong and the benefits cascade into the rest of our lives. So kind of spill over. Recognize as well that research shows that you would benefit from making sure that you do something you actually want to do. Sounds obvious, but this is important to keep in mind. So I suggest that you put some thought into what your one keystone habit might be. Are you going to focus on your posture or your spinal hygiene or your nutrition, your mindset, your recovery or sleep quality? So look at your essentials of health and choose that one area that you feel will have the greatest impact overall. It's also important to get specific on what you're going to do. They say the number one thing that successful people do is that they get specific with their goals. So you may have a statement that I, insert your name here, shall do fill in the blank. So it might be I will read for 5 minutes per day, or I will perform, say, 5 minutes of stretching, a stretching routine each and every day, or I will turn off my electronics 30 minutes before going to bed to decompress. Again, recognize that committing to one habit will impact other areas in your life in a positive way. If you improve your quality of sleep, as an example, you have more energy for exercise. You exercise more, your mental acuity improves, and so forth. Now, ironically, as I was preparing this webinar, my wife showed me a book that she had just started to read by Dr. Greg Wells, PhD, called The Ripple Effect. Now, the main idea of this book, it highlights the point of one lifestyle change having that positive effect on other areas of your life, what he calls that ripple effect. As well, notice we have eat, move, think, as well as sleep, essentially the essentials of health that we've been focusing on. So I thought it's somewhat ironic that from preparing this talk, this is exactly what I was keying in on. Also make a note that sleep, even though we haven't outright said it, I view sleep as being part of our movement piece in that we need recovery and we need that quality of sleep. I mentioned it in the mindset webinar as well as being very important for generating human growth hormone and repair of our body tissues and getting us ready for the next day and moving forward. Now, in regard to the keystone habit, as you find success in making your keystone habit stick, you may eventually expand this and possibly choose another keystone habit or another habit in a different essential of health. Recognize, though, that the idea is that small changes create big results over time. From here, big idea number two, now that you have your number one habit that will have the biggest impact, I want you to schedule to do it again every single day, not every Friday, not 3 times a week, but every day. Making it a daily thing, for whatever reason, it's way easier to install a habit that you will do every single day. It's just how our brains work. The more consistent we are, the easier it is. So let's say you have a little streak going. You've been going for 5 days or 10 days or 15. That's awesome. You have this habit seed that's taking shape. Now, if you miss a day, make getting your habit back on track your number one priority for the following day. Schedule it and get it done. There's a book called Superhuman by Habit, and in it they say that missing 2 days in a row is habit suicide. So it sounds pretty extreme, but it's very true. It's also important to keep in mind that a little bit of wisdom here. If you're tempted to skip a day, think that it is okay to suck, but it's not okay to skip. Silly little phrase there. But even if you have a terrible workout, it's better than missing altogether. More specific to the point, your habit also, it doesn't have to have the same level of effort every day. Some days can be lower intensity or pretty minimal, recovery based, whatever it might be, but still holding to the consistency of doing the habit. I also hold to the idea that when you don't feel like doing something, exercise or whatever it might be, simply start, and oftentimes your energy shifts and it becomes easier. Notice that I didn't say it becomes easy, I said it becomes easier. There's still challenge. During the mindset webinar, I talked about or brought up the idea from Tony Robbins, where he suggests that, or he indicates that through research, it's proven that motion creates emotion, and it's our emotional state that drives us toward taking action. So if you don't feel like doing something, just get some movement started. Oftentimes your emotional state shifts, and it's much easier to continue from there. On a side note, you may have noticed that I said schedule a couple of times. I highly recommend that you schedule your health habits. If you have an exercise routine, put it in your calendar and also get specific with the time that it will happen during the day. What gets scheduled generally gets done. So I'm guessing that most of you have one of these smartphones and they all have calendars in them. You can set reminders to alert you. What gets scheduled again gets done. Make your habit an appointment with yourself. I also use a web-based platform shown on the screen here. It's for my workouts. I review it every Sunday, and that's for the week ahead. So I review it Sundays. I enter the specifics of the workouts, the days, the times, and then I also track when the workout is completed. So it's a form of self-accountability and it works. Moving forward, big idea number 3. I want to touch on what might be getting in the way of your success. We're going to call it your kryptonite. So we have Superman on the slide here. He's very vulnerable to big chunks of kryptonite. It immediately drains some of his powers. But another way to diminish Superman's power is by, without him knowing it, we sprinkle little, call it kryptonite dust, all around his environment. His powers, they kind of slowly deteriorate, and he's accepting his diminished state of the new normal, or as the new normal, his reduced amount of superpowers. Poor Superman. So here's my point. This is what happens to us. We have many distractions or negatives, call it our kryptonite dust, that we allow into our lives. It might be the unhealthy snacks in the pantry, or scrolling through social media mindlessly, or even the people that we hang out with. There's a well-recognized quote on the screen here. You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose carefully. Now, take in mind, I'm not suggesting that you start removing people from your life immediately that you feel are the kryptonite, but how about making connections with those that will challenge you and bring you to a higher level of performance? So I ask, what kryptonite dust have you allowed into your life? Basically, set up your environment for success. One of my kryptonites is ice cream. I like ice cream. So we try to keep it out of the house as much as possible. And when we bring it into the house, we generally always buy coconut ice cream. It's a much healthier version, small container, a little bit of indulgence, but it's not really having much of a negative impact on my overall success. Clicking through here to our next big idea. Make it easy. If you're doing something daily, make it really easy to do. We essentially want to create, as I termed, mini habits that are too small to fail. And then from there, we incrementally build. So as an example, let's not tell ourselves that we're going to work out for 30 minutes a day. Instead, how about committing to doing 1 push-up a day? So it sounds silly, but how about instead of reading or saying we're going to read for an hour per day, commit to reading 1 page per day. Don't tell yourself you're going to drink 2.5 liters of water a day. How about start with 1 cup of pure water? This is about going micro with your habits, going really small with your habits. Again, it might sound silly, but it works. Make it really, really easy to win and very, very hard to fail. Make it so you can win even on the days where you feel at your worst. All right. From there, you build momentum. And that's the key to installing habits that stick. So that 1 push up becomes 5 over time. Then it becomes 10 and 20 and so on. That 1 page becomes reading a whole chapter. That 1 cup of water eventually becomes drinking a liter of pure water in a day. Myself, I'm a person that gets excited about books. I hear about the title, I hear about what they're about. I buy them. I often start, or past habits, start reading them. I lose momentum, and I have a whole stack of books that are half read or 3/4 read, and I haven't finished. So what I've started recently is committing to reading that 1 page per day. Typically evolves into more than a few or a chapter, even a few chapters, if I feel in that good emotional state. This is kind of like Newton's law or first law of physics, where it says that an object at rest stays at rest, an object in motion or stays in motion. It's a metaphor relating to how the hardest thing is often in getting started. So simply get yourself started. So I'll ask you right now, can you do one push up? If I could see you visually, I want to see you nodding your head. We can all do a push up, modified or however. Then a few days later, you move towards 2 push ups and so on. It's that wisdom of incremental gains. Essentially, it's about setting the floor or the bare minimum of what you'll do. Make it very, very easy so you can always do more beyond what that floor level is. Dr. Berry also, he talked about doing micro workouts throughout the day, blended within your day, which I think is a great idea. I believe he talked about doing 1 minute of exercise for each hour. So you get up, especially if we're seated at desks or we're very sedentary throughout our day. Great idea to get a minute of movement into every hour where you may plan out to get up and do a few air squats, perhaps even do some push-ups, do some wall angels, do some spinal hygiene, and then get back to work. It also triggers some better mental acuity and you'll be better off for the work that you're trying to do through your day as well. Overall, set yourself up for success. Our next idea, if then cue triggers. Now, I've heard that habits are essentially 3 things. Number 1 is a cue or a trigger. Number 2 is the routine or the habit that you take part in. And the third is a reward. Implementation intentions are very effective. Think about ways that you can create triggers that will initiate the routine or the habit that you want to install. As an example, if your workout clothes are set out beside your bedside because you're planning to work out in the morning, the clothes are there, they're put on, then the workout happens and the reward is improved fitness. Another example, for me, I have a water bottle that's by the coffee pot. Majority, if not all of us, enjoy our coffee first thing in the morning. So we head downstairs to the coffee pot. Uh, I like my fizzy water, and we get dehydrated through the night during sleep. Great idea is you head to the coffee pot, water's there, rehydrate, and then get the coffee started. As well, admittedly, I pick my phone up shortly after waking. That could be kryptonite, where it becomes mindless scrolling or allowing email to kind of command the start of my day. But what I do, I trigger to starting up a podcast right away. So I have a list of or a number of podcasts, and I try to choose one that's more inspirational, and I get that started first thing in the morning. Coffee starts to brew, podcast is going. From there, I move to the living room and I do a bit of a mobility or movement routine, just a few minutes, but to get the body warmed up and ready for the day. Another idea, I staged the photo here on the slide. TV remote, it's actually placed on top of a foam roller. That's a foam roller in our living room. Um, so how about when you're heading off to watch Netflix, you have to pick up the remote control. It's on top of your foam roller that cues you or triggers you to spend a few minutes doing spinal hygiene, foam rolling, getting the body to open up and become more flexible and mobile. And the benefits will, again, spill over to other areas of your life. We all have current habits or activities that we do routinely each and every day. More ideas. You brush your teeth. How about as you're brushing your teeth, you stand or balance on one leg and then shift to the other leg? Our balance and proprioceptive positional awareness is very important. And through aging, we lose a lot of that effect or the ability. So make brushing your teeth a one-legged stance routine. How about if you're stopped at a red light when you're driving, you do a few shoulder blade squeezes or pelvic tilts or Kegels, as Dr. Berry talked about. So some of those cues, triggers each and every day can help to create what I also term opportunities to move, getting movement through your day. Now, hopefully this will work. If you think these ideas aren't enough to trigger positive action, I have a short video here for you as well.
Do it! Just do it! So just do it! Just do it! Do it! Just do it! Just do it!
All right, little break for laughter, little humor. However, who knows? It could be effective. You might want to save the video on your phone, and then when you're lacking that drive or that emotional state, it may cue you to take action and do it. Next big idea, embrace the process. In creating the best version of yourself, recognize that you're on a journey of sorts. Hal Elrod, he's the author of a book called The Miracle Morning. I believe he also has a documentary or a movie coming out about the same thing. He shares a 3-phase process of installing a habit. He says that phase 1, he calls it unbearable. Doing something that is very different to your normal routine is a pain, and you question why you decided to do it or commit to it. Phase number 2, uncomfortable. The habit is no longer unbearable, but it's uncomfortable. You're starting to see some benefits. It's not enjoyable, but you decide you're going to keep doing it. Phase 3, unstoppable. You get to the point where you truly don't want to miss doing your new habit. My wife well recognizes that I get a little grumpy if I have to modify a scheduled workout. Now notice that I said modify, not miss. I always get a little bit of movement, whether it's a 45-minute run that can't be done, becomes a 10-minute walk, whatever it might be. Adapt. It's key that we embrace the process. Your habits will begin to essentially run on autopilot, and then you can then move to the next level of habit building. I also mentioned in the mindset webinar, it's important to see the immediate benefits of doing something, to reinforce a purpose for doing something. So I do blank and I feel this way. I do, like I go for after dinner walks often with the dog, and it kind of re-energizes me in a sense, or it even sort of decompresses me and gets me set for kind of winding down the day and getting ready for restorative sleep. So recognize your why or your purpose and what you'll look like, or rather who you will be in 1 year or 5 years, that best version of you that I keep talking about. A quote on the slide here by Henry David Thoreau: what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as who you become or what you become by achieving your goals. I've stated that I have the lofty goal of qualifying for Ironman World Championships. However, I often say and revert back to, I recognize that I may never get there, yet I do believe strongly that you become a better version of yourself for trying. It's who you become along the way in your attempts to reach certain goals. Moving ahead. So as we come to the end of our time together this morning, I'm going to be keeping this to about 35 minutes or so. Let's quickly review the big ideas. So we talked about our keystone habit. Choose one habit, again, one habit that will have the greatest impact, that you feel will have the greatest impact on your overall health, and also recognize one that you're excited to do. Big idea number 2, daily. Make this number 1 habit a daily occurrence every single day. We also talked about kryptonite. Recognize your kryptonite dust and eliminate it or get it out of your environment. Make it easy. So if you're doing something daily, that daily habit, make it really easy. Really, really easy to succeed in getting it done. Have that floor level and then work from there. Allowing momentum and eventually building into greater levels of that habit building. Next big idea is our triggers or our cues. We want to develop those triggers or cues that will set your habits in motion. You see the cue, you begin the routine of your habit, and then you're rewarded from there. And then process, embrace the process. Recognize you're on a journey of recreating your habits for a better version of you, right? I want to wrap this up as well with one more idea. Let's say a bonus idea. And this comes back to our mindset, in that we need to get our minds right. We say, as quoted from Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. It's important to recognize that we will often fall short of our goals. And this is why we must develop grit. Grit is the essence of a proper mindset. We essentially know that we can succeed. So this quote by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't. We essentially know that we can succeed and that we're going to show up and get a little bit better with time. That's having that grit. So how about we think back to my first webinar, 1% better. This is the return of Chris Nikic, his 1% mantra. If you don't know who Chris is, go and watch webinar number 1 on mindset. He is truly an inspiring individual, one to look up to. I'm going to leave you with one more message of inspiration. It's been just over a year since the passing of basketball legend Kobe Bryant and his daughter and a few others in a helicopter crash. Kobe had a saying, or perhaps it was his mantra, that carried him through all his efforts and his championships through basketball. It's called Mamba mentality. And according to Kobe, Mamba mentality refers to the constant quest to try to be better today than you were yesterday. So I'm going to leave you with a small part of a video interview that was done with Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes, he runs a podcast and a YouTube series called School of Greatness. He often interviews inspiring people, successful individuals, and during the interview, toward the end, he'll ask them what their definition of greatness is. So I'll play you Kobe's definition.
What's your definition of greatness?
I think the definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you.
And just like we always did growing up, this game will be here and it'll be gone. Right? This last game, let's go hard as hell every single time down. All right? Yes, sir. Let's go, man.
Yeah, I think that's what greatness is or should be. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness.
So I came across this video last year when I was researching for last year's event, and I feel it fits perfectly with the purpose of our Inspiring Life webinar series. The whole idea of being inspired by other people and being an inspiration to other people in our quest for that better version of ourselves. So I want to thank you again for your time and joining me this morning. It looks like it's going to be a nice day out there again, warming up. We've seen enough impact and positive feedback through the first few webinars that I'm sure we're going to continue this in a certain way, although we do have everything recorded. We can send out to you if you would like, but we'll probably do more of these, perhaps different versions. Also think about doing shorter versions of similar content as well, maybe 15-20 minute hits, so you have more of your time to move forward and move ahead. So if you can do us a favor, provide more feedback, share with others that you feel would benefit, and please know that we are here to journey with you in health. And now I just say, go start creating your habits for success and better health. Have an amazing day.